First, and probably the one that's most apparent, is every 5 years we do a transportation bill. And it was scheduled to happen this summer. It may be delayed 6 months, but it's the way you can really get federal dollars into big projects. One that we've done is which was started by my predecessor, and he deserves credit for it, and I've continued funding it, is the East Side Access, which allows more trains to get on and off Manhattan. And we get about $400 million a year just for that project. And that's now automatic. You don't even have to work. We have to make sure nobody takes the money away, but you don't have to work to get it in. Well, I think we should look forward for improvements in mass transit here on Long Island in the next transit bill. So improving the Long Island Railroad infrastructure is something we ought to look at. Double tracked on the Farmingdale line, which, as you know, can't go two ways. That part of Long Island is growing, is important. To reopen the Republic Station and get the Route 110 corridor going. Islip is going to grow as an airport. As we grow in population, as there's more air travel, which will happen, and as the New York City airports become more and more and more crowded, people are going to need Islip more, and transportation and mass transportation there is very important. And furthermore, in the transportation bill will be all kinds of road improvements, and I know there are many local officials here. In the next few months, my office, Senator Gillibrand's office, and the Long Island congressional delegation, they're going to be ahead of us because they're the House and they do the bill first, are going to come to you and say, what kind of ground transportation projects do you need? And these are not the $500,000 or $1 million projects, but these are the $10 and $20 and $30 million projects, and even more per year, that you can get into the bill. So I'd urge you to start thinking about that. Second, and another place, by the way, that we're going to look for transportation improvements is the Nassau Hub. It looks like there's a breakthrough now for the lighthouse at long last, and it's going to be a great thing for Long Island. It's something I've supported, and I've met with the people who are doing the lighthouse, and they're going to need all kinds of transportation improvements on the Meadowbrook Parkway, on Hempstead Turnpike, and if we're going to make it happen, we have to encourage mass transit to the lighthouse in terms of bus and other service, high-speed bus service. And now is the time to begin lining up to lay the infrastructure for that 5 and 10 years into the future. Okay, so that's transportation. Second, the sewer problems that we all have. There are two kinds of sewer problems, sewer and water problems on Long Island. In the older communities, a lot of the sewer and water was built 50 years ago. It's old. It's outdated. And to redo and refurbish, to separate storm and water, is a big expense. In the old days, the federal government, up until 1982 or so, the federal government, under the Clean Water Act, paid 75% of the cost. The state government paid 12.5% of the cost, and the locality just paid 12.5%. And that's why we built so much. That's how the Southwest Sewer District, for instance, of fame and infame, was built. Well, we are making an effort, there's some legislation, bipartisan, to try and go back to those days for two reasons. One, a lot of the older water and sewer systems, which were built right around, the 50s, right after World War II, need to be redone. And second, you go further east in Suffolk County, and there are all kinds of places that don't have water and sewer. And the local taxpayer cannot do this on his or her own. That's all there is to it. So again, if we're going to bring more people here and improve quality of life, water and sewer is vital. We're going to be making a major push in the next few years to try and go back to the old formula, or at least get closer to it. So locally, you didn't have to pay most of the cost for either new water or sewer, or rehabilitation of old water and sewer, which I know is an expensive program to you. And finally, and this involves smart growth as well, one of the programs that the federal government that's been the most successful, because it allows towns, villages, downtowns, it gives them some flexibility, some sort of federal money that can sort of plug a hole that you wouldn't have money locally for, was the CDBG program, Community Development Block Grants. And there are downtowns throughout America, and a few here on Long Island, that really benefited when CDBG was in full flower. And over the years, it's been dramatically cut back. And there is strong, again, bipartisan support, Democrat and Republican, to restore some of the CDBG money and to focus it on things like, instead of letting it go willy-nilly everywhere, to focus it on smart growth, on downtown rehabilitation, on urban planning. Because again, if you're a town, if you're a village, well, a town here is big, but in many places in New York State, the towns are small. But if you're a small locality, you need to do this, but you just don't have the taxes coming in, revenues going out. You don't have the room, the breathing space, I guess is the better word, to be able to do it on your own. And we are going to be making a focus to have CDBG funds available. So if you need to do rehabilitation downtown, come up with new kinds of planning in our local downtowns and local areas here, that it will be available. So those are three things that can help our infrastructure. And given the fact that we have every reason to grow and grow in a smart way, given the fact that, as I said, our great environment, wonderful place to live, and outstanding educational system should present real opportunities for the next generation. If the federal government's role, which will not be in conceiving these plans, that comes locally, but in providing the support for infrastructure to make this all possible, we can be a great partnership and watch Long Island grow and prosper over the next 50 years. Thanks, and have a great weekend.